Choosing the right gaming mouse to go with your rig is not always a straightforward affair. Do you go with something that's ultralight? Do you go with something that's got a little bit of heft to it? Do you go with RGB or no RGB? Do you go with a honeycomb design, no honeycomb design? There's so many options out there. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the latest addition to Corsair's lineup of gaming mice, the Katar Elite Wireless. We'll take a look at it in more detail, see if there's anything that makes it stand out from the crowd and the competition, and I'll let you know my thoughts at the end of the video and if I think this could be the right gaming mouse for you. Hey guys, I'm Matt and welcome back to Kit Guru and to my review of the Corsair Katar Elite Wireless Gaming Mouse. Corsair released the original Katar Pro Wireless back in 2020 and now they're adding to the Katar family with this Elite version, which improves upon the original with added features like a higher max DPI from the optical sensor, a much lower weight with the original coming in at 96 grams, while this new Elite version comes in at just 69 grams. There's also the inclusion of a rechargeable battery, rather than having to stick AAA batteries in there. The polling or report rate has been increased to 2000 Hz from 1000 Hz on the original. So on paper, it reads as if it's just a much better mouse. We're going to put it through its paces and I'll test exactly how it performs and I'll let you guys know what I think of it at the end of the video. Now quickly, we'll get the price out there so you guys can bear that in mind as we go through the video. This mouse retails in the UK for £69.99. The mouse comes boxed in pretty standard Corsair packaging with the usual Corsair colour scheme. It's protected by a plastic bag and held in place by a cardboard insert. You also get a USB-A to USB-C charging cable. This is a non-braided cable and it's quite thin. It isn't the greatest cable I've ever had the pleasure of holding, but it does the job. Looking at the design of the Katar Elite Wireless, the first thing I noticed when I took it out of the box and held it in my hands is that it has quite a flat, squashed design. It doesn't stand very tall off the desk. Here's a shot of it compared to my Logitech G Pro Wireless, which you can see is quite a bit chunkier. So this mouse is obviously geared towards people who use a claw or a fingertip grip. There's grippy sections on the left and right side which do feel really nice under the fingertips. I have noticed them a few times when I've been gaming with this mouse and they definitely helped me keep the mouse under control when like flicking and tracking and stuff like that. The whole of the mouse is coated in a matte black plastic finish which feels really nice, but it does pick up fingerprints really easily. This is not a mouse that's going to stay looking really clean for very long at all. There's a Corsair logo sitting on the back side of the mouse, if you want to call it that. Now this is fully RGB backlit and it can be customised in Corsair's iCUE software, which we'll look at later on in the video. There's also RGB backlighting on the DPI shift button, which again we'll look at the functionality and the customisation of that later on. Corsair are known for their RGB being usually pretty good, and my initial impressions have been that it's no different with this mouse. The RGB looks great. Whether you're a fan of it or not is another argument altogether, but the Katar Elite has RGB and it looks pretty good in my opinion. One thing that really impressed me with the Katar Wireless was the stock feet. This mouse feels so smooth on my mouse pad. Much smoother than many of the other mice that I've tried over the years. The feet are made from PTFE and to call them feet is a little bit of an insult. They're absolutely massive. There are two giant pads on the front and the rear of the mouse and then obviously you've got a little circular section in the middle surrounding the sensor. They give this mouse a very smooth feel and it glides across the mouse pad with ease. Now, your experience may be a little different to mine. Obviously, if you've got a different mouse pad, it's not going to feel exactly the same. But overall, you should find that this mouse is really smooth. So I quite like the design of the Katar Elite Wireless, but I will say one thing. It does take a bit of getting used to, especially if you're used to using a rounder feeling or rounder shaped mouse. Now, as I mentioned a minute ago, the squash design, it has quite a flat top and it can feel a bit strange as the edges do feel a bit rigid and not as curved to begin with, but I got used to it after a couple of days, and I've really enjoyed using this mouse for gaming and work since I got over that initial breaking in period. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this mouse is classed as ultralight, with it weighing in at 69 grams, which puts it just a shade over mice like the Logitech G Pro Wireless, which is 63 grams, and then the Razer DeathAdder V3 Pro, which is 64 grams. And in reality, when comparing it to my main mouse that I use day in, day out, which is the Logitech G Pro Wireless, I can't really tell a difference in the weight when using it normally for work and gaming. Now, with this and other ultralight mice, I always find build quality is a bit of a concern. And the build quality of the Katara Elite Wireless is, I can only say it's okay. I wouldn't call it anything special. The buttons all feel quite well built and of good quality. The left click and right click in particular feel quite solid. The mouse wheel could be a bit sturdier, but it doesn't by any means feel bad. The mouse wheel click, or the mouse 3 button, does feel quite satisfying and quite solid when you click that down. Overall, the buttons feel quite good, but the thing that I was a little bit disappointed with is there's a little bit of a slight creak or a rattle on the left hand side of my review unit. Whether this is going to be in the production units, I don't know, but on my unit, just underneath the thumb buttons, there is a little bit of rattle, a little bit of creak. Overall, it just feels like it could have been a little bit more sturdy when compared to some of the other wireless mice that I've used. But then the other wireless mice that I'm comparing it to do cost a lot more than this mouse, so I suppose you get what you pay for. The build quality didn't blow me away. It could be better, but it also definitely could be a lot worse. So now let's look at the connectivity options, including the battery life when it's on wireless, the sensor performance, and then we'll talk a little bit about the latency. But this mouse can connect to your PC in a few different ways. First of all, there's Slipstream Wireless, which uses one of the tiny little Slipstream Wireless dongles connected to your PC via USB. These dongles are ridiculously small, and you can connect multiple Corsair Slipstream Wireless devices to them at the same time. So at the moment, I'm using a K70 Pro Mini Wireless keyboard and then this Katara Elite Wireless mouse, and they're both connected to the same dongle. That's really convenient, and it saves me a USB port on my computer, which I really appreciate that. The battery life when using the mouse in this way is surprisingly good. Corsair state up to 110 hours of battery life when using the mouse wirelessly, and that's a pretty bold claim. That's with the RGB turned off, you'll get up to 110 hours. It's about 50 hours, roughly half of it, if you have the RGB turned on. And throughout my testing, I can say it's pretty close to the reality, that is. I've always found that Corsair are quite honest with their battery life claims, and the battery life in this wireless mouse is pretty decent. You can also connect the mouse via Bluetooth, which isn't something I'd ever do unless it was absolutely necessary. It's only ever going to be a last resort Bluetooth for me. I certainly wouldn't recommend using the Bluetooth connection for gaming, as you'll get quite a lot of input lag. As I usually say about Bluetooth though, if you've seen any of my previous Kit Guru videos, it's good that it is an option, and it could come in useful if you want to use it with a laptop where you don't have a spare USB port, for example. Then finally, you can use the mouse while it's plugged in, which is how you're going to charge it when the battery runs out anyway, but you can use it with the wire connected if you want to. When the time does come to charge the battery, you'll still be able to crack on with your gaming, or work, but gaming. Now the Katara Elite Wireless contains Corsair's Marksman 26,000 DPI optical sensor. Now I usually run my mice at 1600 DPI, which is on the high side among my gaming friends. To run a gaming mouse at 26,000 DPI would be insane. You've got to have the reactions of a god to play on sensitivity that high. But it's nice to see that it's an option. But let us know in the comments, what DPI do you guys play at? Now this mouse does have a polling rate of 2000 Hz, but to be able to use that, you're going to have to connect the mouse via USB cable. Then you can go into the settings within iCUE, which we'll talk about in a minute, to select the 2000 Hz polling rate. If you use the mouse wirelessly with the Slipstream Wireless dongle, then you're going to be capped out at 1000 Hz. I've tested out both polling rates while gaming with this mouse, and I've got to be honest, I couldn't tell the difference. You have to be superhuman to tell the difference. So like most of Corsair's products, the Katara Elite Wireless uses Corsair's iCUE software for its customization and setup. And if any of you have watched any of my videos on KitGuru before, you'll know that I quite like iCUE as a companion or peripheral management software. It works well and it's simple to use. If this is your first time here and you haven't used it before, then this is the piece of software that you're going to install on your computer to set up and customize this mouse along with pretty much all of Corsair's products. The options for customization are quite extensive, to be fair, for the Qatar Elite Wireless. Within the first tab in iCUE, you'll find key assignments where you can remap any button except for the left click to do specific stuff like trigger a macro or launch an application. Then next up is the Lighting Effects tab, which lets you set up and customize quite a large selection of preset lighting effects. As I mentioned earlier, Corsair delivers very good RGB, which always seems to work well, and it's always quite fluid when transitioning through the colors and effects. Now you can choose to save any key assignments or lighting effects that you set up either to your computer via iCUE software or to one of the onboard memory profiles of the mouse itself, so you don't even have to have iCUE running in the background if you don't want to, saving a tiny little bit of processing power for your computer to use while you're playing your games. There's also the ability to set up 5 different stages of DPI, which can then be cycled through with the physical DPI switch button. You can customize these to whatever level of DPI you want. I like to have my default set at 1600, but that's purely a personal preference thing. You can also calibrate the mouse to work with whatever mousepad or surface that you've got it on. This is, to be honest, quite a fun little process where you have to keep moving your mouse in a spiral and keep a speed bar within a green zone. It's like a mini game within iCUE, and it'll ensure that your mouse tracks as well as it can across whatever mousepad or desk or whatever you've got it on. Then finally, within the device settings tab, you'll find options for checking for a firmware update, changing the polling rate if you've got it connected with a cable, adjusting the brightness and the sleep mode settings, and then you can make it so you can see the battery percentage in the notification area of Windows, which is a nice touch. And then this is where you'll pair it with a USB wireless receiver and set up the multi-point status, which is what I mentioned earlier about connecting multiple devices to one Slipstream wireless dongle. And then finally, you can turn on and off angle snapping and change the lift-off height. Now overall, and as I've said in previous videos, I think iCUE is a great piece of software. It's great that you can use this device without having iCUE running by using one of the onboard profiles, but iCUE isn't a bad piece of software to have running in my opinion. It works well, it's simple to use, and if you own multiple Corsair devices, then they're all displayed at the top and it's really simple to click from one to the other. Plus, iCUE contains useful stuff like monitoring the temperatures of your computer and other specs that you can find on the dashboard. Overall, I feel that iCUE is great and it's miles ahead of some of the software offered by other brands and competitors. So my final thoughts on the Corsair Qatar Elite Wireless Gaming Mouse are quite positive, to be honest. It feels honestly so smooth on the mouse mat. It glides with not that much effort at all. Yeah, the build quality could be a tiny bit better, but there's nothing that causes me any major concerns. There's a slight creak here and there. The price compared to some ultralight wireless gaming mice is quite good. It's priced quite competitively. The battery life is quite decent. It lasted quite a long time off of a single charge. The RGB is delivered well, as is the usual for Corsair's products. So if you're looking at picking up a wireless gaming mouse, then definitely check this mouse out, as I've enjoyed using it, and I might even change to using it as my daily driver going forward, to be totally honest. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like down below if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to KitGuru to keep up with the latest PC gaming news and reviews. And if you want to check out our merch or our Patreon, then you're going to find links to both of those down in the video description. Anyway, guys, I've been Matt. This has been Corsair Qatar Elite Wireless Gaming Mouse. I'll speak to you in the next one. Look after yourselves. See you later.